Good afternoon, everyone. Drew Griffin here with Pottstown Local and on behalf of the Tri-County Area Chamber of Commerce. We have another episode of Chamber Chat Live. I'm joined here by Chamber Chat host of the Victory Bank as well, Bill Vitiello. And we have a very special guest, Jenna Armato of JennaArmato.com, who is a growth and success coach. And we're going to dive into, she does so much more. You can't even believe it. We're super excited to be hanging out with Jenna today. I'm going to pop off screen and sit back and take a bunch of notes. Bill, when you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Drew. Appreciate it. And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tri-County Area Chamber Chat Live here on Facebook. A little bit different than the podcast, but we're still making it happen. Before we begin, a few people we'd like to thank. First, we would like to thank Drew Griffin from Delicious Marketing. Drew obviously is bringing us all the technical support, and he's running things behind the scenes. I want to thank you to Eileen as well, who's monitoring the questions and comments that are happening. And during the course of this interview, if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to interact with us. We have availability to answer you, and we have a subject matter expert right here, which I'll introduce in a moment. And we also like to thank our sponsor. I am so sorry. I am totally blanking at the moment.
The Ben Exchange.
The Ben Exchange, thank you. Your friends for business benefits. And that's why we have technical support in the background. Because it's weird as we're all adjusting to doing something new. I'm still getting used to just looking straight into a camera lens and actually not into an audience. So thank you for the flexibility there. The Ben Exchange, your friends for business benefits. Okay, so I feel like this introduction should come with a lot of smoke and lasers and music, but I'm going to give it a try here, and I need to look down to read. So I want to welcome to the show here Jenna Armato. Jenna is a growth and success coach. She became a certified coach for the John Maxwell team in 2017 with the mission to help people grow. She coaches individuals, businesses, and nonprofits in leadership development, personal growth, and positive mindset. She is a John Maxwell certified coach, speaker, and trainer, and is a licensed teacher through the Empowered Living community and is a certified in DISC behavioral analysis. Prior to becoming a growth and success coach, Jenna spent 20 years working in corporate marketing and advertising. She combines her passion for growth and heart with volunteerism and currently volunteers with a variety of nonprofit organizations, both locally and nationally. Jenna, welcome to Chamber Chat Facebook Live. How you doing?
Thank you so much, Bill. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be connecting with you and everyone here. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. I feel like you're not even going to need me for this Facebook Live because you're gonna run crazy with it. But we have to start somewhere, right? For folks that don't know you, I gave a brief introduction, but tell us a little bit more about yourself, please.
Sure. So I live and work in Pottstown. Very, very happy to be a Pottstown resident. And my role as a growth and success coach is to facilitate growth. So I work with individuals, I work with organizations, and I help them navigate from where they are right now to where it is that they want to be. And sometimes that work means helping them uncover where they want to be. Because we may know that we're not satisfied with the current result, but we're not exactly sure what different looks like. And so sometimes my work means coming alongside of people and helping them map that strategy and understanding what different looks like for them.
So how have you been handling things since the beginning of all this? I know when you and I connect, we're always trying to get together, and you're always like, well, I got this going on and I got that going on. So tell us what you've been doing to fill the days since everything started here.
Sure. Well, there has been no shortage of work or need. I will say that from the standpoint of just the need that is out there right now. From a kind of like a chronological standpoint, last month I would say, you mentioned being on the go, and so often I have a lot of travel in my schedule. And so, about a month ago, a lot of the work was rescheduling some of the travel that was on the calendar. It was, reshaping some of those in-person speaking engagements and in-person workshops and transitioning those to all virtual engagements. And so that was kind of the initial stage of things. And then it moved and shifted into really just handling kind of the influx of need. So, initially it looked like leaders really trying to understand, how can I be a visible presence with my team in a virtual world? What does that look like? How do I keep them connected? How do I effectively communicate with them? And so that was kind of the initial response. And now we've really moved into more of the virtual speaking engagements. I already have some virtual trainings, but really a lot of virtual speaking engagements. Many organizations now at this point have standing meetings for their teams where they meet on a daily basis. And so they're looking for people to come in and really connect with their teams, provide a source of education and equipping in a way to be able to help them grow forward.
No, that's great. And I know thank you for giving us a background on that. I know a lot of folks are tuning in here to get to the heart or want to hear from you what you want to talk about. And I understand that is the power of positive attitude. So necessary right now with everything that's going on in multiple arenas, right? Both personally, professionally, community-wise. So I'll let you have the floor, and let's give us some nuggets for the chamber community to take away here.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, attitude is certainly more important, now than ever. Interestingly, I've been having conversations with a number of leaders just across various organizations and various industries, and every single one of them has mentioned that attitude really is a critical component and a core element of their strategy right now, of their initial response strategy, as well as now moving forward, as we're taking steps forward. Attitude is a critical component of that. And for good reason, because attitude is the primary cause of the results that we see in any area of life or business. It really does come down to attitude.
Do you think leaders right now struggle to find the positive attitude, or do you think that's something that comes natural to people? I would think, again, for an individual as a leader, it's very heavy, right? It can be very heavy, but as a leader, then how you feel translates to the rest of your team. So do you feel it's difficult for leaders to find that positive attitude, or are some just wired to be positive naturally?
I think well, first of all, you mentioned a number of things. You mentioned feelings, and that's a really big component of our attitude. So our attitude consists of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. So those three things combined together create our attitude. Now, some people are used to working that attitude muscle. It's something they've built in. It's something they've put into practice. But even if you've put it into practice right now as a leader, there are a lot of moving pieces. There are a lot of things going on, and feeling the weight of that is something that can happen to anyone, no matter how much you've built that attitude muscle up. And so something that's been really a positive source for leaders to draw from is finding a sense of connection to other leaders that they can kind of mastermind through this time with, that they can really connect and share their experiences, share some best practices, and have that connection point that can help kind of lift that weight and help keep things moving forward.
So do you recommend that's where somebody starts to engage with a group, or would you recommend something different, maybe something they read or something they look at, a video or something like that? What do you how do you recommend somebody beginning there?
Sure. Well, you mentioned a video. So I will say, a great source, if you're just looking to start out, how can I learn more about attitude and build that attitude muscle up? There's actually a great video. It's a TEDx Salford talk by a woman by the name of Deborah Searle, Debra, and then last name Searle. Deborah Searle has an incredible story about attitude in action. So I would definitely check out that story, real quickly. She and her husband embarked on a race across the Atlantic Ocean, to row across the Atlantic Ocean. And Deborah had no formal training in rowing when they embarked on that race. And they got into day one and realized that her husband had a crippling fear of the open water. And she decided to continue on the race on her own in that rowboat. And instead of being out on the Atlantic for 6 weeks, she was out there for 3 months alone.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when she was interviewed, she said, "It wasn't my strength that got me across the finish line, and it wasn't my technical ability." She had no formal training. it literally was her mental resilience and choosing her attitude every day that got her across. So that's a really great place to start. And then, the other piece of things, when we're really looking to start to build that attitude muscle up, the first kind of thing to look at is really our personal emotional responsibility. It's about shifting from looking outside of us to what's causing our attitude, and remembering that regardless of what's going on around us, that we have a choice as to how to respond to that. So shifting away from, blaming other people or other situations or circumstances for our attitude, and recognizing that's a choice that we have that we can make.
Yeah. So I would remind the audience, if you would like to drop any comments or ask any questions of Jenna, please do so. We'll still be on here for the next several minutes, so we're happy to engage. Jenna, just a few moments, Eileen put a screenshot up there of, I guess you helped the chamber go through a leadership game. And then also, I know you presented at the Victory Bank Business Series. So were they one and the same, or are they different? And can you talk about the leadership game a little bit, maybe?
Sure. So those are two different experiences. In fact, within that first month, I guess the entire, maybe for about a month, right after things happened, the leadership game is it's about a 2-hour facilitated session. The value of the game really is to bring people together to connect and collaborate. And so there are some self-leadership questions in the game that really make you think into your own self-leadership skills, as well as your communication and connection to the team, and some organizational leadership questions. So it's really great for strategic planning, or really anytime you need a reset with your team and to bring them together. And so within the first about 2 weeks, that's something that I wanted to just be able to offer to even to families out there who maybe felt a little disconnected from one another and just needed to be able to come together and connect and experience. So that's something that teams are leveraging right now, is the ability to bring their teams together, connect, and really bring them together in a forum where they can talk about, where are you? What are you experiencing? How is your day-to-day a little different now? What would you like to continue as we move forward and leverage for growth? What does that look like? And what challenges do we anticipate, over the course of the next 6 months? What does that look like?
Yeah, I was going to say, and I've been talking with some folks individually about, I guess how to get through this, not only with that positive attitude that, this will end eventually. Certainly it's going to look different for everybody. And I think we all get that. But we were also exploring, the mental health component of it, and how necessary it is to seek help if you need it. Just to have a conversation with somebody. They don't necessarily need to be medically qualified to have a deep conversation, but perhaps just some relief talking to another human being just from an outside, looking in, might be very beneficial. So how does that, do you talk a lot about mental health and how that ties into the positive attitude piece?
To some degree. I mean, I do start off, typically if I'm going to do a lesson series, or, I have a, complimentary lesson series that I run quite often. Lately, I've been sharing in those lesson series, if someone is experiencing a level of anxiety, of depression, that it is outside of their norm, and things are really different for them, that is definitely time to seek a medical professional, someone who can help them in that particular area. And so certainly something to keep a pulse on. But in terms of just kind of generally talking through, hey, here's what I'm feeling and here's how I'm experiencing, there's something interesting to know. And that is, that each different behavioral style, we each have different behavioral styles, and each one of them responds a little differently under stress. And when we're under stress, we may have some different work habits that are outside of our norm. And if we don't have a level of awareness in recognizing, here's why I'm working a little differently right now, it's because I'm under stress, that can really cause some frustration. And the same is true now that we're in remote environments and we've got other people potentially around us in our homes that are also experiencing stress. If they're a different behavioral style type and their response to stress is a little different than yours, you're kind of looking at each other going, what's wrong with you? No, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
That can cause some frustrations. And so, I've been sharing a lot of lessons, helping people really just start to recognize and understand their own behavioral style, some of the characteristics around them, and how their style intends to respond to stress, some ways to support that, and then ways to support the people around them too.
You're right. And then how you respond to it then sometimes dictates what other people's responses are as well. So if you're calm about something and very logical about your thought process, chances are the people around you will be the same. But, on the flip side, if you begin to panic or to start to show some anxiety a little bit, people might take on that characteristic as well. So.
Absolutely. It's, John Maxwell has, a saying, people may hear your words, but they feel your attitude. And Rourke Denver has a great video out that's actually called Calm is Contagious. And he shares a story about that, that chaos is contagious and panic is contagious, but calm is contagious. Absolutely.
Yeah. I wanted to ask another question, but before we do that, again, if you have any comments for Jenna, we have a few moments left here. Please feel free to ask any questions. I know Jenna will love if you asked a question or even just said hello. So Jenna, I know a lot of businesses have been, thinking about coming back online soon, and, hopefully it will come sooner rather than later. And a lot of these folks, some of the businesses have, quote, traditional sales teams, right? So these are folks who are in business development or building those relationships for the brand. But even if you don't have a formal sales or business development type team, I think businesses now more than ever will need some support with getting back up and running and getting the word back out. So I know you deal a lot with the sales process and sales team. So could you give maybe just a little bit of a background for somebody who might be interested in getting things started back up? Like, where do they even begin now that things have shifted a little bit? What kind of advice could you give them?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, I think, what we're really talking about is connection and connecting with your clients or your prospective clients. And so really, from the standpoint of identifying who are those people and where might they be, and understanding that, I just had a conversation about this. A lot of people who use social media as a part of their strategy are kind of are sweating a little bit right now because, people's social media habits are a little different right now than they were a month ago. And I think purely that's based on the time factor. People are not on social media as much because they've got so many competing commitments for how they're spending their time. They're on screen all day during the course of the day. And so they're just not leveraging social media in the way that they are right now. That's just what I'm saying from my particular perspective. And I can speak from the other side of it. I had probably about a solid week where I wasn't on social media as much just because I was purely working in the business. And so I think number one is not being discouraged. Is understanding that whatever method you put in place for you, there's a level of consistency that's going to be required until you get to that place of buildup. And so, sometimes it's just kind of about being in it for the long game and working that consistency muscle, and building things up and looking at it from that perspective. Yeah. But I will say just, real quickly, the really important piece right now is to, as my mentor, Paul Martinelli says, really build that behavior momentum. So you can start to build the habits and create the momentum for people right now that you want them to have in place as we work through and as we step into that emerging future. Working with those habits and creating the momentum right now is something that could be really important.
Yeah. So we have a question here from Joe. He says, Jenna, do you think it is insensitive to contact clients, or in our case, donors now, or is it good to keep in touch with them?
Yeah, that is such a great question, Joe. I think there is certainly the power of connection is incredibly valuable. I think what you do with that connection is certainly up to you. But from the standpoint of staying connected from them, being in their awareness that you're there. Maybe it's almost a, hey, how can I serve you? Or what's going on with you? Or how are you? How are you doing? Those type of connection points, as opposed to maybe something what your normal might look like. But right now, I think there's value, kind of any way you look at it in staying connected to your prospects and to your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, great. So we just have a few more moments to wrap up here. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the Facebook audience?
I would just, I guess I would just say, and I'm sure that we've probably all heard this, but, it's okay if, if you don't feel tomorrow like you did today. It's okay if, if you just kind of ride the wave a little bit and embrace, where you are each day, but also leverage where you are each day. You can wake up and you can choose to set your attitude based on where you are that day, what you feel that you may need to draw on for your own self, but also what the people around you may need. And so one day you may wake up and say, hey, today my attitude is I'm going to be determined. And you may wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, today my attitude is going to be patient. And that's okay. It's whatever you need it to be for the time and space that works for you.
Yeah, and guess what, folks? If you do have a range where some days you're feeling good and some days not so great, congratulations, you are human. So Jenna, thank you so much for being on today. We greatly appreciate it. Folks wanted to contact you. How can they reach you, please?
They can go to my website at jennaarmato.com, JennaArmato, jennaarmato.com, or Jenna at Attract, Engage, Inspire. Jenna at Attract, Engage, Inspire. So website and email. That's
great. Thank you again for being on the program today. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you once again to Drew Griffin from Delicious Marketing. He's going to pop back on here in a second from behind the scenes. And I'm actually going to remember at this time, the Ben Exchange, your friends for business benefits. I always feel like I just had my YouTube moment earlier in the broadcast where I'm going to be on the bloopers of Pottstown or something. So
that's not a bad idea for a show. Maybe we should put some money behind that and just have a lot of fun with it. Try to get that blooper out there.
Right.
You did great. Both of you are amazing. I could sit here and listen for hours. I learned so much. And Jenna, where do we send the check? I mean, that was just amazing information and insight. I'm sure everybody that had the opportunity to watch it live was able to write down a bunch of notes. And for those who have not watched yet and will catch it a little bit later, they're in for quite the treat. So thank you for being our guest. You are welcome back anytime. On behalf of Eileen and everybody over at the Tri-County Area Chamber of Commerce, I'm Drew Griffin. Our awesome host for today, Bill Vitiello of the Victory Bank and Chamber Chat Live, and our guest, Jenna Armato. Thank you so much for your time today. Please, anybody, if you're interested in connecting with the Chamber of Commerce, we highly recommend getting in touch with the Chamber of Commerce. They've got amazing programming you can connect with and meet a ton of businesses. This is just a little plug for the Chamber of Commerce. We get the opportunity to connect with incredible individuals such as Bill and Jenna pretty much anytime that we want. Super approachable, and it's a great opportunity for exposure for your business. Please consider joining Chamber membership, and we will look to connect with you guys real soon, probably next Monday, same time, same bat channel, 2:00 on Monday, and again next Wednesday for another episode of Chamber Chat Live. Everybody, please be safe out there, and good business and good deeds to everybody. We'll talk to you guys real soon.
Take care, everyone.